You have a dream, not a small one, a real one. Maybe it's starting a business, writing that book, getting in shape, finally learning the thing you've been about to learn for 3 years straight. And here's what you do with that dream. You think about it constantly. You plan it in your head. You make a Pinterest board. You watch 12 YouTube videos about people who did it. You buy a journal specifically for it. And then, nothing. The dream just sits there, full of life inside your head, dead on arrival in real life. And every single morning, you wake up and tell yourself the same lie. I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. And slowly, quietly, you stop calling it a dream. You start calling it just a thought I had once. Here's what I want you to know right now. Before this video goes any further, you are not lazy. What's happening inside your brain is far more complicated than that, and far more fixable. But only if you understand what's actually going on. And before we go deeper, if you found this video because something in that intro hit a little too close to home, you belong on this channel. We break down the psychology behind the things nobody talks about. Hit subscribe and the notification bell. You're going to want to see what comes next. Let's get one thing straight. We've been diagnosing this problem wrong for decades. We blame time management. We buy planners. We download productivity apps. We read articles called 10 Habits of Highly Successful People and feel motivated for exactly 48 hours. And then we're right back where we started. Because the problem was never your schedule. The problem lives one level deeper than that. It lives in what you feel the moment you think about starting. Think about the last thing you kept putting off. Really think about it. Now ask yourself, what did it make you feel? A little overwhelmed? A quiet fear of, what if I'm not actually good enough at this? A vague sense of anxiety you couldn't quite name? Yeah, that. Your brain doesn't like that feeling. And here's the thing. Your brain is very, very good at making that feeling disappear, not by helping you face the task, by helping you run from it. Suddenly, your room needs cleaning, your inbox needs organizing, your phone becomes incredibly interesting. You feel lighter, relieved, like you did something productive. That relief is the trap. Because the moment you feel that relief, your brain files it away. Oh, this works. Next time we feel that discomfort, we're doing this again. And just like that, without ever choosing to, you trained yourself to avoid. Here's where it gets scientific, and honestly, a little wild. In 2013, psychologists Timothy Pychyl from Carleton University and Fuschia Sirois from the University of Sheffield published research that changed how we understand procrastination. Their conclusion: procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotion regulation problem. You are not avoiding the task. You are avoiding how you think the task is going to feel. And here's the neurological reason why. You have two systems fighting for control inside your brain right now. The first is your amygdala, the ancient emotional alarm system. It scans for threats constantly. And yes, your to-do list can register as a threat, especially if it's something important, something where failure would mean something personal. The moment your amygdala perceives that threat, anxiety, uncertainty, fear of judgment, it sends one signal: run, avoid, escape. The second system is your prefrontal cortex, the rational, goal-oriented part of your brain that knows exactly what needs to be done and why it matters. The problem is this: when the emotional brain activates strongly enough, it hijacks the rational brain. Researchers at Psychology Today call this the amygdala hijack, and it's the neural signature of procrastination. Your brain isn't failing you. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's protecting you from perceived danger. The danger just happens to be your own ambitions. And here's the statistic that should stop you cold. According to multiple peer-reviewed studies, including research published in scientific journals tracking procrastination across cultures and decades, procrastination now affects 15 to 20% of adults chronically. That's a sharp rise from just 4 to 5% in the 1970s. We are getting worse at starting. Not because we've gotten lazier. Because our lives have gotten louder, our options more overwhelming, and our fear of failure more loudly amplified by a world that broadcasts everyone else's success directly into your pocket. Let me show you the exact cycle. You think about the task, you feel uncomfortable, you avoid it, you feel relief. Your brain remembers that relief. The next time you think about the task, the discomfort is slightly bigger. The avoidance is slightly faster. The cycle is slightly deeper. This is called negative reinforcement learning. Every time you escape discomfort and feel better, you strengthen the neural pathway that says, avoidance equals safety. You are not failing to act. You are succeeding at avoiding. You have practiced it hundreds of times until it became automatic. Of course, it feels natural. You got very good at it. But here's what nobody tells you. Every time you avoid, the imagined version of the task grows larger than the real one. The dread you feel before starting is almost always worse than the task itself. The monster in the hallway is never as terrifying as the monster in your imagination. You only discover that by walking into the hallway. Now I need to call out something that's going to make some of you genuinely uncomfortable. Because some of you aren't doing nothing. You're doing everything. You're researching the dream, reading about it, watching videos about it, building the perfect system for it, creating a 12-step plan for it in your brand new Notion workspace. And it feels like progress. It feels productive. It might even feel responsible. But the actual thing, still untouched. Psychologists have a name for this: productive procrastination. Or more precisely, what researcher Piers Steele at the University of Calgary calls task substitution, replacing the high-stakes, emotionally loaded task with something that feels useful but carries no real risk of failure. Researching the business instead of registering it, reading about writing instead of writing, watching workout videos from your couch. And then there's the most dangerous version, perfectionism dressed as preparation. I'll start when I'm more ready. I'll launch when the plan is cleaner. I need to learn just a little more first. That's not strategy. That's your amygdala in a suit. It found a version of avoidance that looks responsible from the outside. The brain rewards you with a small dopamine hit every time you plan. According to research from the Harvard Business Review, excessive planning can actually lead to a 30% decrease in real task completion because the brain mistakes the satisfaction of planning for the satisfaction of doing. And so you plan forever and start never. Just be more disciplined. Find your why. Visualize your goal. Here's why that advice fails most people. Willpower is a finite resource. Research from Roy Baumeister at Florida State University, what's known as ego depletion theory, shows that self-control depletes across the day. The more decisions you make, the more resistance you face, the less fuel you have left to fight the avoidance instinct. Motivation is even less reliable. Motivation follows action. It does not precede it. Waiting until you feel motivated to start is like waiting until you're hungry to learn how to cook. The feeling you're waiting for only arrives after you've already begun. And visualization. A 2011 study by psychologist Gabriele Oettingen at NYU found that positive visualization alone actually reduced motivation. The brain experiences the imagined success as partial reward and relaxes before the work is done. So discipline depletes, motivation follows, visualization backfires. What actually works? It's almost insultingly simple. Start, not finish. Not do it perfectly, not do it when you feel ready, just start. Right now. At whatever size feels almost too easy. Open the file, write 3 sentences, put on your shoes, do 5 minutes. This is not motivational poster advice. This is neuroscience. The act of beginning triggers what psychologists call the Zeigarnik Effect. Once your brain is engaged in a task, it creates an internal tension to see it through. The open loop demands to be closed. Your psychology shifts the moment you cross the threshold from planning to doing. And something else happens when you start. You meet reality instead of imagination. Your imagination exaggerated the task. Reality is just a task. Manageable. Human-sized. Not the catastrophe your amygdala advertised. There's one more tool that actually works. Name the feeling before you run from it. Next time you catch yourself suddenly needing to clean the kitchen instead of starting the project, stop. Don't fix it. Just name it. I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm afraid this won't be good enough. I'm overwhelmed, and I don't know where to begin. Neuroscience calls this affect labeling. A landmark study from UCLA found that simply naming your emotion reduces activity in the amygdala. The alarm quiets, the rational brain gets more room. You pull yourself out of autopilot. You create a gap between the feeling and the reaction. And in that gap, that tiny gap, is where action becomes possible. Here's the truth that the productivity industry doesn't want to sell you. You don't have a discipline problem. You have an old, automatic, well-practiced reflex that learned to protect you from discomfort by keeping you still. And the way out of it isn't a better planner. It isn't more motivation. It isn't waiting until the fear goes away, because the fear doesn't go away before you start. It goes away because you started. The dream you've been carrying? It doesn't need you to be ready. It needs you to begin. So close this video and go do the one thing you've been putting off, not tomorrow, not after one more video. Right now. See you in the next one.